Oh no, into the crate solid state amp. Oh, there it is, the Gonkulator. Hello and welcome to the channel. Today I've got a bit of a different video for you, as I'm setting myself a bit of a challenge. So in a minute I'm going to spin a spin wheel to decide a guitar, a pedal and an amp to make up a random rig, and then the challenge is to see if I can make it sound semi-decent. So let's get started with the first rig. So, for the first rig, the guitar's going to be my PRS Miles Kennedy. And we're going to be pairing that with Boss Dimension C Wazacraft, and then we're going to be running both of those into the Orange Dark Terror. That's probably going to be quite a good one. Let's see what it sounds like. Okay, so here we are with rig 1. So I've got the PRS Miles Kennedy. Then on the desk in front of me, I've got the Boss Dimension C. And then down beside me, I've got the Dark Terror. We'll start with some clean tones. So with the pedal off, just guitar straight into amplifier. It sounds a bit like this. And then with the Dimension C on. Now I think this is a rig that's hard to go wrong with, because on their own all of these pieces of gear are fantastically good, and they're all pieces of gear that I use myself in my solo material. I do especially love the Dimension C, so for this video I'm just running it mono into the front of the amp, but what I do like to do sometimes is run it out from stereo. It's a really good way of fattening up and adding more of a choral and a more ethereal sort of feel for sections of songs, but I use it fairly frequently, especially in things like my tracks Turbulent Sky. So those are some of the clean tones. Now if I just turn the gain up a bit, because the Dark Terror does have a lot of gain in it, then suddenly we get into much more aggressive territories. So it's got quite a lot of gain in it, this amp. And then if I throw the pedal back in, it gets us to what I think is quite an 80s sort of sound. So that's sort of late 70s, early 80s sort of hair metal kind of thing. And then for leads, it's also quite an interesting sort of sound. So that's a brief look at the first rig. I should say that with the Dimension C, it's got a number of settings. I've been running it for this whole time on positions 1 and 4 both switched in, and on the Dark Terror I've been running it with the shape knob just straight up at 12 o'clock. So that was the first rig. I've now removed those options from the spin wheel, so let's see what our second rig is. So for the guitar we're going to have my Fender Telecaster. We're then going to be running that through Russian Big Muff, and then those are going to be running into the Ignator Tweaker 40. Narrowly avoided the crate there. So that's the second rig. Let's see what this one sounds like. Okay, so I'm all set up now with the second rig. So I've got my 60s custom Telecaster. On the floor in front of me I've got a Russian Big Muff, and then I'm running that into the Ignator Tweaker 40. Now I have to say, I've played around with this to try and find some tones briefly before starting recording, and I have to say this really isn't my favourite of the tones so far. So I'm going to keep this a bit briefer so we can move on and see what the third rig has installed. But let's go through some tones quickly. So on the cleaner of the two channels, I've got them both set up with a little bit of gain just to give the Big Muff a bit of something, mainly because I don't like a fuzz pedal over a completely clean amp. So the cleaner of the two channels sounds like this. And the dirtier of the two channels sounds like this. So then throwing the Big Muff over the top of that, on the cleaner of the two channels on the neck, it sounds something like this. Really quite doomy. And then on the bridge pickup it sounds like this. And then I think it comes alive more on the hotter of the two channels, and it sounds something like this. So that's the second rig. Like I said at the beginning of this section, I'm not as big a fan of that. I think it would definitely have its applications, but it wouldn't be my go-to for a clean tone. And I'm not particularly into really sludgy, doomy, high gain tones. So let's see what the third one has in store. So that was the second rig, and we'll do one more for today's video. So the final guitar for today will be it's going to be my Gretsch with the upgraded Filtertron pickups. We're then going to be running that through there it is, the Gonculator. And those are going to be running into into the Crate solid state amp. Let's see what this one sounds like. Okay, so I'm now set up with the third rig. So I've got my Gretsch G2655, which I've got Mojotron pickups in. And then this is where it goes downhill. On the desk in front of me, I've got the DoD Gonculator ring modulator. For those of you that don't know what it is, you're just going to have to experience it because it's impossible to put into words how odd this thing is. And then Unlike the last two where I've been running into a load box and then using an impulse response like I normally do for my home recording, I am mic'd up the crate which is sat behind me with an SM57 because despite it being solid state, it has no output whatsoever that isn't through the speaker, which is hardwired in. On the amp, I'm just using the clean channel because it's solid state, so you're not going to get a particularly good even edge of breakup tone out of it, but clean tone sounds something like this. So not the worst clean tone in the world, probably not the best either, but it's not terrible. Right, the gonculator. So I'm just going to turn it on and let you hear it first before I try and explain what the hell this thing is. So there you go, that's just a little taste of the gonculator. So basically what this is a distortion and a ring modulator in one pedal. Why? Who knows, because you can. If I just switch off the ring mod for a second and just give you, so this is with all of the controls at 12 o'clock, this is what the distortion on its own sounds like. And if I then give you just the ring modulator on its own, so even alone it's a weird sort of tone. It's not the worst sounding distortion pedal in the world. It's just the ring modulator, which is a bit weird. I have, however, found that there are certain uses for it. If you click the card up here, you can check out my video where I actually did write a whole track with this pedal. That being said, I don't think that this is particularly the guitar to do it with. It's a bit too dark sounding. I think you need something a bit brighter and snappier, maybe with a bolt-on neck. But what I have been doing with it, I try and match the ring modulator to one of the open strings or whatever key I'm playing in. So that's now tuned to roughly an E on the frequency knob. And I think when you set it up like this, it gives you a sort of thing a bit like you get with an octave fuzz, although a lot weirder sounding. So it's something a bit like this. And then if I put it back to where it was before, which was up the octave. So there you go, that's the third rig. I don't really know what to say about that. It's an interesting tone, let's put it that way. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments. Which of the three was your favourite? Do you own any of this gear and would you use the gonculator? As always, thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.